Welcome into Game Changers. We have a busy episode for you today. Mike Cunio, Kimbo Camper,
I'm letting you get through with the whole.
This is nice. This is nice. I didn't know what to do here.
I'm turning over a new coin.
All right, here we go. Turn over a new leaf, a new coin, whatever you want to call it. Let's go ahead and turn over to our guy, Steve Goldstein. He's in
Goldie
Toronto.
on ice.
Goldie on ice. Goldie is in Toronto this week because the Panthers are playing the Maple Leafs. We'll see if the Panthers can own them like they own a lot of other teams. Goldie was in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Half the time we see Goldie, he's got these curtains behind him. He always got different curtains because he's in a different hotel.
Different Four Seasons, you know what I mean?
Well, part of the issue is you guys are very intimidating, so I went with the collar dress shirt.
Looks
since
very
you
nice.
criticize me in the cold when I wear the turtlenecks, it's not easy to please the two of you with these shots.
No, listen, Steve Jobs. No one criticized the the turtleneck. We're actually mad we can't pull it off.
That's right. Well, I used to wear a turtleneck. No, I didn't wear a turtleneck. I used to wear those Dickies where you just put it around there and there's like just a little piece of cloth that you put under your shirt. Makes it look like
It's called balling on a budget. All right. Speaking of balling on a budget, the Miami Dolphins free agency. This may be a very short block because they haven't done much, but they did find a backup quarterback in Zach Wilson. Goldie, I'll start with you.
Did he? They found one?
Yeah.
Zach Wilson? That's our guy?
For now, I think they'll draft somebody still. But Goldie, signing Zach Wilson, there have been a lot of think pieces about this signing over the last couple days, and I think it's only because the Dolphins haven't done much. But what are your thoughts on bringing in Zach as the backup to Tua?
Well, a couple things. Number one, I think it's pretty apparent. When Tua goes down, and I'm not sure it matters who the backup is, there's a big drop-off.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, and I'm not comparing him to Tua in any way, okay? But Zach Wilson mentally is kind of in that Tua mode where you got to rehabilitate a guy who's obviously got some talent. He was drafted second. Sean Payton of the Broncos saw enough to sign him last year. I think it's pretty interesting. Can Mike McDaniel, with all of his positive reinforcement, take a guy who's really just been criticized time and time again since he got to the NFL and reprogram him mentally and use some of those physical skills? So I think it's an interesting move. We'll see what they can come up with, but a lot of people thought they'd get a guy 30-something that's been in the league and had some success. Instead, they kind of go for a young guy that maybe you can still develop.
Yeah, the guy they seem to be floating around, or that was floating around a lot, that would have been perfect, was Marcus Mariota, right?
Yeah.
He's played better than Wilson, and he's experienced. And he could step into a game and not have the deer in the headlight look that we saw from Skylar Thompson. I'm not so sure Zach Wilson can do that. I just, number 2 draft, this is what's wrong with the NFL. Number 2 draft, and he's been shopped around for the last 3 years. When they draft that high, they reach for him. They're not that good, but everyone's starved for him. But to me, I don't know that a guy like Zach Wilson fits into the scheme that they build strictly for Tua, and I don't know that there's many other people. I think Mariota would have been a guy that fit in that scheme, but I don't know if you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole with him on this thing. And I'm with you, Goldie. For probably 90% of the teams in the NFL, if your starting quarterback goes down, you're done. You're toast.
I want to agree with Goldie on something here. The thought that Zach Wilson may need the Dolphins more than the Dolphins may need
I agree
Zach
with that.
That is very interesting in terms, because we just saw what happened with Sam Darnold and Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings, and look what happened with his career. You got to wonder if the Dolphins possibly, maybe, this is all speculation, maybe they cast a wide net, see who was interested, and Zach Wilson, his people were like, we saw what he did with Tua, let's jump on this deal, whatever it is, in maybe hopes of reviving his career. I like that idea. That's very interesting.
This is almost like a Panthers Bill Zito type signing, right? You got a guy with talent. Whatever reason it's not working out somewhere else, but if we put him here with what we do and the talent that we have around him, maybe we can get more out of him. He was very good during training camp last year, for whatever that's worth. We see 4 or 5 guys on every team be good in the preseason, and they don't go. I understand that. But then he didn't play it all for Denver because Bo Nix was the starter. So I think it's interesting. The other thing, Mike, that you said, about not doing much, I'm going to disagree a little bit on that offensive line. I think this James Daniels signing at right guard to go in between Brewer and Jackson, again, a scheme fit for the Dolphins. Again, if the guy is healthy, he missed most of the season last year. I think that could be a good move for that run game that needed a guy.
Well, if you want to dig into that whole free agency, To me, what they've done is they've touched on a couple of areas that they needed. Offensive line, they got 2 potential guards in that line. Whether they're going to be good enough or not, I don't know. They got a couple safeties, which answers a question. They got a wide receiver that answers a question. But so to me, what they've done is they've added flexibility to draft day.
Sure.
So they've got these positions that may be good, may not be, but it gives them opportunities to maybe move around for someone like a tight end or someone among that ilk. Or you get you talk around, an Ashton Genty falls up there and they want to take a flyer on that. I just think, I don't know, I can't say that any of these guys are going to be the answers, but at least they've got they've got bodies to go into those positions of need.
So but when I say not enough or didn't do much, that to me is my problem. Is it feels like
what's new?
They got bodies, and I think you're looking for at least something of an impact. And yes, James Daniel, when he plays, he's good, but he's injured, and you just wonder if. You worry about the health there, because the health of the offensive line, if you look at the Dolphins' offensive line the last 2 years, had they been healthy at all the positions, let's go back to the year with Robert Hunt.
Yeah.
Across the board, that would have been very good offensive line. And for the most part that season they were, until the injuries started mounting. So I'm getting concerned with the guys they're bringing in just because of the injuries. And I think that's fair. And look, you guys are making good points that they filled positions of need. But I think they need more.
I'm agree with you on that, because this is what the Dolphins have done for years and years and years and years. Well, let's go out here and get this guy that may have 2 or 3 good years in him, maybe, and let's plug him in there and be our guy and hope that it works out.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work out. You've got a guy that's old. You've got a guy that's not playing at the level that he played before, and you're trying to win football games with him. So this is a continuing thing. And you talked about Mike McDaniel, and you talk about Wilson coming in. The weight is on Mike McDaniel's shoulders this year to make that offense work the way we saw it work 2 years ago. When you had the big year from Tyreek, when you had the big year from Waddle, when you had Raheem Mostert running for 1,000 yards, all those things that work there, that's on Mike's shoulders. And so Mike's got his fingerprint on this Wilson pick. If he turns out to be another Skylar Thompson kind of guy, if you need to play him, it's going to be another strike about Mike. So I think Mike should be feeling the weight of what's going to happen, particularly on this offense this year.
Yeah, he's the guy in charge. He got all the credit for a couple of years, so obviously he's going to get some blame for last year. I think it's interesting because Mike McDaniel, like you guys just said with Zach Wilson, he could have taken the easy way out and gone to Chris Greer and said, hey, get me a veteran so I know what I got if he has to play. And Mike McDaniel, I guess, is so confident in his ability to not only rehabilitate guys mentally, but design plays and fit guys in, that he says, no, let's take the shot. Let's get the guy that has maybe the most talent out there, and I'll figure out how to get him going. It's going to be pretty intriguing watching this thing starting in the OTAs, how Zach Wilson performs.
Listen, I'm intrigued by Zach Wilson because of the talent. You mentioned it. We've all seen it. There is something there. But to me, I just don't need a rehab project at number 2. I need a guy that I know I can count on, and I'm not sure Zach's the guy. Not saying he can't be, but
you're not asking for much out of your backup quarterback.
You're hoping you never see him, by the way.
You're hoping you never see him, but what you're going to ask of your backup quarterback, if he's in for 4 games, just win us 2 of them. Just win 2 of those 4 games. That's really all you're asking for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Agreed. Okay. Goldie, do you want to put a bow on that?
No, I agree with it. I also do wonder, are they looking at this in some ways long term? Like, it's intriguing to me because what you guys are saying, you want to have that backup go in the 4-6 games a year at most. Hopefully, that's all he's got to play. Keep your head above water, go 500 and get your guy back. And they go and sign a guy that's 25 years old and didn't play it all last year.
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting what they're thinking there.
Well, you hope he's the next Purdy, right?
Yeah, Mr. Irrelevant to $50 million contracts.
I remember when they lost their quarterback. Was it Garoppolo?
They lost all of them that day against the Dolphins.
In the first series.
Yeah, it was Garoppolo.
And Purdy comes in and goes, "Oh, we're going to murder this guy." Yeah. Then he went on a run like we've never seen before.
I can't remember. It may have been Garoppolo, then Mullins, and then Brock came in. The Dolphins started the Brock Purdy era and kicked off a Super Bowl run for them. All right, we gotta wrap this up because we do have to get to our next block, which is about the Panthers and a few scumbags we got to talk about. That's coming up next.
What? Goldie's friends?
Goldie's, yes. Welcome back to Game Changers, guys. I feel just such an excellent marketing opportunity at our fingertips, and that's why you two are definitely here. That's the only reason why you're here. Brad Marchand, the second he gets to South Florida, he calls Sam Bennett a scumbag, his new teammate. And Sam Bennett goes on social media, posts a picture of them two, just a couple of scumbags on the ice. I love this. Goldie, and it just got my brain working as to how much teams around the league will start to hate the Panthers, probably more than they already do. But let's play this out a little bit. Marchand, Bennett, Tkachuk.
Yeah.
In the playoffs,
brothers.
yeah. When they're on the ice together in the postseason, will they be more hated or to a level of hate within the hockey world, obviously, because NBA is a little different, then maybe the Miami Heat big three back in LeBron era? Like, will we receive this much hate here in South Florida that we saw when LeBron, Bosh, and D. Wade started to get together?
Well, I think more because that big three was more just jealousy, and they weren't an overly mean trio. Now, first of all, we'll see if Marchand does play with Bennett and Tkachuk, but either way, at times going to be on the ice together. And I think the Panther trio will be more hated because of the way they play. They get under your skin, they agitate, they hit, they'll take the extra shot. And remember, you don't know how many chances you're going to get at a Stanley Cup. I mean, Bennett's unrestricted after the year. Yeah. Marchand's an unrestricted free agent. So who knows how long it's going to be together. When the big three got together, at least to start, they knew they had a number of years. But just by the nature of hockey and the nastiness that those guys play with, particularly Marchand, teams are going to really have to do their best to control their emotions. They will be highly disliked by the opponent's fan base, for sure.
The big three from the Heat, they weren't going to get any scuffles with anybody. No. They'd beat you by scoring. They'd beat you by playing basketball. But this, Goldie, this brings back memories for me from the Broad Street Bullies, the Philadelphia Flyers, back in the time when they had Dave Schultz and all those guys, and they were just waiting for a fight for the game to start to get into a fight. And I got to feel that there's going to be a lot of itchiness now, and there's going to be a lot of guys. The one thing my coach told me the first practice I played in the NFL, I got hit. Someone hit me in my back, and he said, "Son, in this league, you got to put your head on the swivel." There are going to be a lot of guys on that ice with a head on their swivel if those three guys are on the ice at the same time.
Yeah, I just think it's funny because the Heat big three, I think they leaked into like the First Takes and all the debate shows and stuff. But I think in arenas, the road arenas, it is going to be miserable for those fan bases because they have to deal with that, like three pests on the ice together, potentially on the ice together at one time. When the trade happened, I was laughing. I was sitting down and I was laughing at how funny this all is. I can't imagine what it's been like from your point of view.
Oh, it's amazing. And by the way, Brad Marchand, who we've watched for, almost 20 years with the Bruins, 16 years playing for them, once again, one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. Like a guy, you look at him from afar, he's not on your team, you hate him, he's mean, just a great guy, happy to be with the Panthers now, as sad as he was to leave Boston. It's also interesting because Marchand and Tkachuk in particular, they don't play like that all the time, but they have a unique ability to know when during a game their team needs that spark. Like, okay, I got to juice this thing up a little bit. There may be no better players in the league than Tkachuk and Marchand at detecting when their team needs that spark. And I just can't wait till they all get back together. Tkachuk, I guess he's going to be out till the playoffs. Marchand looks like he'll play in the regular season, but it's going to be fascinating to watch.
They all got that attitude. They know how to get under people's skin. Yeah. And it may take it a little bit to fester during the game, but at some point it's going to come out. It's going to kind of be. It's going to be kind of like WWE on ice, but it'll be WW3 on ice.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. By the way, you know his nickname, right? Marchand's nickname?
What's that?
Little Ball of Hate.
Yeah, well, there
Little
you go.
Ball of Hate. It sounds very wrestly, doesn't it? Goldie, I do want to ask you before we wrap this up about Aaron Ekblad, this suspension. It stinks not to have him out there. Obviously, they're trying to work in all these new pieces. But again, to me, I look at this as an opportunity for a guy who's been banged up the last couple of playoffs to get a couple nights off. I mean, I don't want to, you don't want to minimize these situations ever. But to me, it's not the worst thing in the world for the Panthers.
You know, on a lot of levels, sad to say it's not. Now it is for Aaron Ekblad. He was having a great year. He loses his money, a 20-game suspension for the poor performance-enhancing, drug-positive test. But when you look at it from the Panthers standpoint, I do agree with you because you find out a little bit more about what you have. I think they already know, because Kulikov and Mikkel have played together all season long, and Seth Jones steps up into that number one pair where he's been familiar. But you're right, Ekblad gets the rest. Now, for me, it's a little bit too much rest, Mike, because he's going to miss the first two games of a 7-game playoff series. But basically, they're back to the same defense that they had all season long with Polinskis coming in. So, unfortunate situations, but I will tell you this. Especially in hockey, football's different. You can go in and have the, 15-2 regular season and keep the momentum rolling and win the whole thing. The NHL playoffs are so long and so grueling that you want to have some adversity before you get there, even a dip and lose a few games. Remember those years when the Panthers won the President's Trophy? They won the 13 straight at the end of the year, and they really didn't have another level to go up to. So a little adversity, a little having to move some people around and have some people play in some maybe tougher situations they will in the playoffs. You're right. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a positive.
So you can look at it two ways, right? When you get to the playoffs, you're going to have guys that are rested. Kachuk's going to be pretty well rested. Ekblad's going to be rested. But does rest become rust? And you could go those situations, much like you looked at the MLS. Look at the Miami last year.
Yeah.
They didn't play. They didn't play. Messi a lot, and then they go into their first play. Then they're out.
Yeah.
They don't get any chance to compete, and then they were the team that was supposed to win it all. And so rest or rust, I think that's the concern you got to have. But I think Paul Maurice is going to know how to get those guys, once they're ready to go, kind of put them to the grindstone a little bit and get them edgy.
Yeah, I think part of it is, they've been here for a while, so when they do step in, it's not. It's not totally foreign. And the other thing is, unfortunately for Ekblad, he's had some injuries, as we know, late in the season. So, different reason here. But this is not the first time that Aaron Ekblad is going to miss some extensive time and then, boom, all of a sudden be thrown into the fire. And we'll see whoever they play in the first round. We'll see what the score is, if you will, in that series when he gets back for game number 3. That'll be intriguing as well.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. But a lot of interesting stuff there with the Panthers moving forward as we get ready for the postseason. About 15, 16, something like that games left, Goldie. So we are in the thick of it now. All right.
Are you going to be back for any of these games? Or are you going to be on the road for the next 15 games?
You guys, you haven't welcomed me into the studio.
I see you on TV.
You haven't welcomed me into the studio. You guys are next to each other. I mean, hopefully one day you'll have me back.
We're too close to each other.
Maybe next week we'll flip. Maybe next week we'll flip.
We'll have to wedge you in if you come in.
How about you guys come in? How about you guys come in here and work till 11:30 at night, and I'll do the show from in there.
Poor you. Poor you.
Poor guy.
I'm going to go ahead and take a quick nap during this commercial break.
Cunio,
and when we come back,
I
remember one time Goldie had 8 jobs at one time.
Goldie still has 8 jobs right now. All right, still to come. We're going to talk about the Miami Heat. What the heck's going on with them? We'll be right back. Welcome back to Game Changers. We're moving over to the Heat talk now because they're in the midst of their worst losing streak of the season, and there's a common theme here. They build these double-digit leads, and then they cough it up somewhere along the way. Most of the time, it's in the fourth quarter, and it's been brutal, guys. And, you start to look around the team, and you start to ask yourselves, Bo, where's the blame lie? And at what point do we have to start looking at head coach Eric Spoelstra and say, you have to fix this. You get a pass because of all the championships and all the winning, but at some point the buck has to stop with him on that bench.
Sometimes you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
I don't know what the hell that means.
Jimmy Butler, to me, when you lost Jimmy Butler, that told me that's the end of this season. Mm-hmm. They're going to battle. They're going to try to play, and I don't put it on Eric's shoulders because he's still the same guy, considered one of the best coaches in the league still. And look, you can't. The season, first of all, the turmoil early. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? This and that. All of that weighs on a team. And then you got the guy goes somewhere else, and he goes to Golden State, and he's lighting it up there. What, they're 10-1 since he's been playing at this point? And so he's still the player, the good player. And if we had Jimmy Butler and he was playing like he's playing out there, we wouldn't be talking about Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, but to me, it's just you see the talent. There is enough talent on this team to compete with good teams in the NBA. They're having leads on the Knicks. They're having leads on good teams, and they can't sustain it. So is it rotations? Is it game planning? Is it taking guys in and out at the wrong times? That's why I'm asking.
I just think
Goldie,
I think the team just got sour.
Do we look at Spo and or do you look at the roster and say they've got enough talent to a certain extent?
It may be a cop-out, but it's a little bit of everything. Yeah. Look, it's ultimately, coach does have to figure out a way. If you can be good, as you say, Mike, for 42 or 44 minutes, figure out the way to do it for the extra 5 or 7 minutes and close some of these games out. And by the way, not all these games have been against the high-end teams. But in a lot of ways, Bo, I agree with you because it is a players' league. You need stars. Yeah. Pat Riley has always known that, which is why the first thing he did when he got to South Florida, he brings in guys like Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway. You draft Dwayne Wade, Shaquille, the list goes on and on. It's a players' league. You need big-time players in order to win. And Jimmy Butler, whether we like him or not, we obviously don't because the way it ended, him leaving, he's best player on that team. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So I think it's kind of spread out a little bit, but no matter who they have on the roster, I do agree. Some of these games against average teams, you can't be blowing these big leads. You got to find a way. And the whole thing here has been for decades predicated on hard-nosed defense first. And they've got to find a way to get back to that.
So let me ask you about hard-nosed defense in the NBA now. When you've got a game that's not played in the interior anymore, it's played on the three-point line, how do you get hard-nosed defense going into that when it's 20 feet out or whatever it is, 18 feet out, and the hard-nosed stuff comes under the basket in the paint, right?
It is not the way it used to be, physical. No layups. I'm not helping you out. You're right, Bo. All that is out the window.
Yeah.
But when you're up by a dozen points with 6 minutes left in the game, you got to find a way. Whether it's getting in someone's face 2 feet from the hoop or 32 feet from the hoop, you got to be able to do it.
We're approaching 20 games this season in which the Heat had a double-digit lead and end up it's absurd. It's a crazy stat. It's a little wild. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here on Game Changers. When we come back, Tiger Woods. I'm asked the question. I didn't say
you threw tomatoes at him.
Okay, I'm gonna throw tomatoes at you. We'll be right back.
The first time.
CBS Center Court debuts Sunday, 7:30 p.m. It is our live special for all the NCAA tournaments you're ever going to want to see. We're going to have player interviews, learn about some of the teams and the personalities in this year's tournament. Make sure you check it out at cbsnewsmiami.com. All right, guys.
College basketball's heating up right now.
College basketball, we are here. March Madness. All right, guys. Let's talk about Tiger Woods for a second. Ball, start with you. He has a ruptured Achilles. He had to have surgery. I'm just, as a golf fan, I just wonder how many more times we can do this with him before we say, this is it.
I don't think, he's gone out and he's tried a number of times, tried to play in Masters, tried to play in, and even if he starts playing well, I just don't, he's got, he's like it's like a car with 250,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
You fix one thing, another thing breaks. And look, he's the greatest, he's certainly arguably the greatest golfer along with Jack Nicklaus to ever play the game. And you can look at you watch the highlights that he owns, and it is insane the way he played. and he's still, I think all the players still love to see him around there, and I like to see him do stuff. I like to see him on this indoor deal that they're doing, the TGL. But yeah, I think his days of being an impact player on the tour are behind him.
Goldie, what do you think?
He's a legend hanging around. There's no other way to say it. You know, guys that remember him when he was in his prime, amazing. But I think it's all just nostalgia at this point. Unfortunately, with Tiger Woods, still fun to see him play, but it's not even in the ballpark of what it was, what he made his career, and what he made his legacy on. So in some ways, it's tough to watch.
I'm bummed because you mentioned the TGL, and even when he was winning, sometimes I don't know necessarily thought it looked like fun back in his prime because he was so intent on beating everybody, but he was having so much fun in the TGL. Like he was laughing, he's joking, he looked like one of the guys out there. It was a transformation of Tiger, and to just have that now kind of taken away from golf, to me that's maybe the biggest
But I think we'll see more of his personality continue. You know, the one thing about I grew up, mid Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus. But I'm fortunate that I got to see Tiger from an amateur
you saw it all.
to where he is right now. You saw the whole story of him unfold. And I tell you, it's been 20-something years of really good golf that I've been able to watch with Tiger.
It's one of the, I think, underlining fun things about golf courses in Florida, South Florida, is you pop into one, and every once in a while you'll see a picture of young Tiger because he played there as a junior or as an amateur and won that tournament. Very cool. So obviously we hope that Achilles gets better. Who knows? Maybe we see him out there on the course at some point. We don't know yet when that will be. But we know we'll be back next week. Thank you guys for tuning into the Game Changers. And thank you guys for being civil a little bit today. I don't feel like my self-esteem has gone crashing into a crater after this one.
I called Goldie before. I said, let's take it easy on Mike. He's getting a little sensitive.
Get a little soft.
You're a little sensitive, Cunha. You know, trade deadlines passed in the NHL. None of us got traded. So, we're trying to be a little bit calmer now. Yeah, be a little nice.
Too bad no one got traded. We'll see you next time on Game Changers.
Oh, come on.